Okay, so welcome back. We're now looking at Exclaimer Cloud Signatures. This is a third-party app that will require payment on a month-to-month basis that is excluded from your G Suite. This is an optional lesson, and this is only if you want to include a cloud signature on the bottom of every single one of your staff's emails. So whenever they send out an email, you obviously want to say this is Jane Smith or Paul Auger, and you want to have their titles there. And when you have their titles there, they can't change it. You might think that's silly, but I've actually dealt with a lot of companies where they actually allowed their staff to put their own titles into their signatures, and you would not believe the kind of titles that actually are put in there. So you now have control over their signatures, what it looks like, and whether or not it actually is put on via the web, if they're sending via Outlook, whether they're sending via their phones. Every single time they send out an email and puts a beautiful signature at the bottom. You can also put adverts or banners at the bottom, advertising a award that you've just done, a new service you're providing, a special for an upcoming event, whatever you want to put in. And when you put in that banner into a central location, it will then update automatically and instantly for every single one of your staff members. So if you've got 5 staff members, that's quite easy to figure out what they're going to be sending. But if you've got 5,000 staff members, that's how you need to get this sorted. The first step is go to this URL, which is under portal.exclaimer.com/new/sign-up. So we're going to sign up for a new account here and just put in your normal email address and password. So I'm going to sign up as paul@tamingGsuite.com. And I'm going to use this password. Okay, let's now go and get the verification code. And let's now fill in our details. Now, it's asking you what service do you want to use. Now, Exclaimer is wonderful because they can use Office 365 or Google G Suite. And if you are coming from Office 365 or you're in the process of migrating and you need signatures right now for Office 365, you can use those and then get the service migrated later. But we're going to do G Suite right now. And let's push next. So how many users in your organization? This is just an example to get you started. I'm going to say 5. And you can read the trial terms and conditions. Basically, the trial terms and conditions are: don't abuse the system, and in 14 days it will expire. If you need more time to roll this out and to test it, please pop me an email on paul@taming.tech and we can extend your trial for you. Let's push next. And let's say launch. The first thing we're going to do is connect to our email system. You can try the signature design if you want first, but let's actually set it up first and then we can see how this looks. So there are 2 ways of doing this. Firstly, you can see your signature before you send. This only works on the online version, and it doesn't work when you load it up on your phone or anything like that. So we normally don't do this one, and we normally don't push this out because people get confused and say, well, it's on the web, but it's not on my phone, or it's not an Outlook. What am I supposed to do? So we normally don't do this. And we normally only do apply to email on all devices and see before you send in Gmail, but we'll remove that one later. We won't actually apply that one. The other thing is that Gmail has this thing where you only have a limit of 10,000 characters to have in a signature. Now, 10,000 characters might seem like a lot, but if you think about the fact that you are actually putting in an HTML code where you're going to put a table form in with different color text and different font values. If you then have a banner at the bottom and Twitter links, 10,000 characters does get consumed quite quickly. So we normally just do server side and say to all the staff, guys, when you send the email from your phone, from the web, from Outlook, from wherever, it will get your signature on, and that doesn't confuse them then. Okay, so let's push next. Okay. So what it's saying is we need to synchronize the data from the Google directory to the Exclaimer cloud. And once we've done that, then they can apply it to the signatures. We're then going to configure the G Suite email routing. Now, we've spoken about routing earlier in the course. So what it's going to do is it's going to send the email. We're going to send it from our G Suite. It's then going to go out to Exclaimer. Exclaimer is then going to put a signature on with the banner and all your advertising and all the stuff. It's then going to be sent back to G Suite. And then once it's back in G Suite will then send it out with the signature on. So let's push next. We're now going to be redirected to Google to sign in. It now does a check of your entire G Suite application to make sure that there isn't Exclaimer installed already. If it is, it will give you a different setting from this. If it isn't, we can then start installing it. Brilliant. So now it's saying we need to integrate it with Google. So if we click on this, it's going to ask open something else, and we're going to have to do a domain install. So let's click on that. Please remember, if you are doing this, you need to be a domain admin of your Google G Suite. So let's say domain install, and let's say continue. Scroll down and see all the permissions, and we're going to say I agree and accept. Okay, and it says it will install it under the G Suite waffle, or the 9 dots, or the apps launcher icon, which is not as cool to say as the waffle. And let's say done. Now remember, when you install things like this, it may take up to 24 hours to actually be installed. So if this doesn't happen fast enough for you, please just make sure that you wait for at least 24 hours before this works. So let's close the marketplace, and we're now back here. So now if we push next, it's going to now check it and see if it has been integrated. Brilliant. So now it says we can open the server-side configuration guide. So if we click on that, it'll give you this long example of how to actually do all of this. Now you can read this and you can follow through this. You can even print it and tick it off by pen. But let's do this manually together. So what we're looking at here is this is the Exclaimer Cloud hostname. Now this will be different depending on where you're actually signing up from. In South Africa, it normally chooses the US for me. And if you're in the UK, there's a UK server. There's servers throughout the world. These are my specific IP addresses for my service, and there are 2 of them. So these are specific for mine. So please make sure that when you look at yours, you will check what IP addresses have been given to you. Now, it has this tick box over here. It says I completed the setup in G Suite, but we haven't done it yet. So before we do all of this, let's go and check what's happening in G Suite. So log into the back of your G Suite and then click on Apps. Click on G Suite, then click on Gmail, and scroll down until you get to Advanced Settings at the bottom. So now let's go into Hosts at the top here. And we've currently got this new SMTP server, which is from an earlier lesson. Let's push delete on that. And let's say add root. So now I like to name this as simply as possible so I know what this is. Because if I'm going to be dealing with your G Suite or hundreds of clients of G Suite, I need to understand what each of the roots actually do. So don't be shy or label this as specifically as you want for your domain. Now this is going to be the Exclaimer Cloud. So I'm going to say Exclaimer Cloud. And we are going to specify an email server. Now remember, over here, we have got an Exclaimer Cloud hostname. So let's grab that, copy that, and dump that into here. Okay, and let's type in port 25 there. And then please make sure both of these are ticked, the TLS and the require CA signed certificate. Let's push save. And you now see this new host has been added. So that's the first thing. That is now going to send, that is our new SMTP. That's everything's going to be sent through. Let's now go through to general settings and scroll down until you get to compliance. Under compliance, you will see content compliance down here. On the right hand side, let's click on configure and you get this setting to add. Remember, let's do a short description over here so that we know exactly what is happening. So what we're doing here is we are actually routing these emails to Exclaimer Cloud. And remember, this is what we named the SMTP. Now the email messages that we're going to affect are only the ones going out. So it's going to be outbound messages, and it's going to be internal sending. So if I send an email to my colleague, it's going to be a sending internally. So those two are what we need to do, because both of those need to have my signature on. Now, add expressions that describe the content you want to search for in each message. So we're going to say add, and we're going to do an advanced content match. So we are going to be looking in the full headers. So we're not going to be looking inside the body of the emails. We're going to be looking in the full headers. And what we're going to say is we're going to make sure that it doesn't contain the text, this, Exclaimer, hosted, signatures, message processed. And you can grab that from this article, which is referenced in the resources. And here it is at the bottom. Now what this is doing is it's saying, if there's an email that's going out that has got a header that has got this text inside the header, then don't send it to the Exclaimer cloud. So it's saying that if it doesn't have a signature, then you can send it to Exclaimer cloud. Then Exclaimer cloud will send it back to Gmail, and then Gmail will check again by sending it out. It will look for this in the header, and because the signature has now been added, it will not use this anymore. Because if you now have it sent again, it will now just sort of like do a loop through Exclaimer cloud and sort of like get thousands and thousands of signatures on. So that's not going to work for you. So we're sending out emails. We're checking inside the headers to make sure that there isn't a signature being processed. Let's push save. And now it's saying, if the above expressions, so this is the expression, if they match, do the following. And we're going to do what's called a change of route. So if they don't have this text in the header, then send it to Exclaimer cloud. And then the last thing is require the TLS at the bottom. Remember, there's more options underneath here that you can look at. And if you are going to be doing this for all users, you can leave this like that. If you're going to do it for a specific user or even specific groups, you can say only affect specific single email addresses or a group membership, which is that one. So I hope that makes sense. Let's untick that now because we want to have all of our users are going to get a signature. So let's say add settings. So here is the content compliance. It's going to be applying for outbound and internal sending. There's one match. And what happens if it matches? We're going to modify the message by changing the route and going out via Exclaimer. Okay. In the bottom right corner, let's push save. Now, as I've said, what's going to happen is the email is going to go out from your emails to this route and check whether or not it's been processed, whether or not it has a signature. If it doesn't have a signature, it's then going to go to Exclaimer. Exclaimer is going to stamp a signature on the bottom, and then it's going to send it back. But the question is, how on earth does it send it back? We need to receive this email from Exclaimer back into G Suite. Then G Suite will then send it out normally. So let's try and figure this out. Go back to General Settings and scroll down until you get Routing, which is over here, and then scroll further until you get to SMTP Relay Service. Now, this was set up earlier in the course, so I'm going to delete that. And then push save on that. And right now, it says that nothing is being configured, which is probably what yours is going to look like. And let's push configure. So once again, we can add a description. So let's go into that. And I'm going to put receive email from Exclaimer Cloud. So this explains what is actually happening. Under allowed senders, we're going to have only addresses in my domains and only accept mail from specified IP addresses. So remember, these are the two IP addresses that are allowed. So I'm going to copy that first one and say IP range and put that in there. Under the description, I'm going to say Exclaimer IP1. And I'll push save. And then I'm going to grab the second IP address. And I'll say add IP range. Put that one in. And say Exclaimer IP2. Now obviously we need to still keep the TLS encryption, so let's tick on that. And let's say add settings. Once again, let's push save at the bottom corner. And let's go back to your signatures. So it says here, these are the cloud host names, which I've done. These are the IP addresses, which I've done. So I've done everything, and I'm now going to say tick. I've completed this setup in G Suite. Perfect. So let's push next. Now what's happening is that Exclaimer is going into your Google directory, grabbing all the users in your Google directory, and then bringing them into Exclaimer. Now this is the first time that it's going to happen, and it's obviously going to be manual in this time. But what's going to happen from now on is that once a day it's going to go into your Google directory and synchronize all your new users. So if you add a new user or you delete a user, it will then synchronize and will be up to date at all times. Now if you want to force it to synchronize faster, there is a way of doing that inside Exclaimer. But let's get this finished first, and then I'll show you those advanced things. So depending on how many people are currently using the Exclaimer API that connects with Google, this might take a couple of minutes. So go make yourself a cup of coffee and let's see you just now. Okay, so that took about 6-7 minutes on my side. We're now going to create our first signature. So let's push next. So let's push new signature. Now there's a couple of options here. You can pick one of these and you can say I'd like to take one of these and edit this for my own purposes. And if you want, that's perfect. You can look through all of these. There's obviously business cards and decorative ones with just disclaimers, ones with just signatures, ones that are vertical, and ones without images. But let's create a blank signature quickly and see how this whole thing works. Now I'm going to choose this layout. So this is a table, and I'm going to pick this layout. So I'm going to have on the left-hand side, I'm going to have my logo. And then I'm going to have on the right-hand side a little bit about my company, about me, and below that I'm possibly going to have a banner. So let's pick on that one and say yes. And here we can get started. So I'm first going to drag personal fields from the left. And you can see that if I move it over here, it shows you where you're going to drop it. I'm going to let it drop in the top right corner here. And it says, what would you like to have? Well, I've got full name, I've got job title, I've got organization name. Do you want to have a label for that? And by label, we can have a little home button or a little thing like that. No, you might not want to do that. Okay. Under field here, you've got full name, job title, and you have a separator. So what you can do on the bottom here, it says multi-line, so it will go first name, and then go to the next line, job title, and the next line and say organization name. Or you can say this is going to be a single line, and you can say show field separators. So instead of a comma, you could use a pipe and a space, or you could use a /. Whatever you would like to do is fine. Okay, but let's leave it on multi-line right now and push OK and see what that looks like. So right now it shows you on the right-hand side, and it uses a generic name of Karen Green, graphic designer, and Exclaimer. Now, I don't actually want those little things next to it, so I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to push delete. I'm going to click on that. Okay, and let's delete that one too. So on the right-hand side, it says Karen Green, graphic designer, and the company. So let's now figure out other things that we want to do. The first thing is we might want to put a banner at the bottom. So on the bottom here, we've got images and logos, and let's drag that in. So you can obviously have a linked image URL. So if you a banner somewhere else, you can obviously put the URL in there. I find that that's a bit frustrating, especially when people are getting email in Outlook, for instance. And in Outlook, it says, well, do you trust this person enough to download the image? And then it will only show. If you do an embedded image like this, we can then upload an image into that, and then it will always show. So let's upload an image that I've currently got. Okay, and this is a banner that I have for Exclaimer that advertises that we are Exclaimer partners. Let's push OK on that. And you see it previews here and it previews on the side here. Now, a couple of things you can do with images is we can firstly click on that and we can link it to a URL. So if you've got a website that explains stuff about your product or your award that you've just won, you can click on that and have it linked. I'm going to link it to our company, and we are going to sort of like link it to the Cloud Signatures address. And what I'm also going to do is I actually want to know how many people are clicking on that. So I'm going to go into a short linking service. So I'm going to go to bit.ly and open that up, and I'm going to shorten my link. So if I push that in there and say shorten, you will see it gives me this particular link, which I can obviously copy. I'm going to put that link in rather, and I can put an alt text which says, come and get your Exclaimer for G Suite here. Perfect. And just push enter on that and close that. And now when you move your mouse over this preview on the side here, it now says the alt tag comes up. And if we click on that, obviously, it will go through to this page. Let's try. And see it goes straight through to that page. Now, the reason why you would actually want to use a bit.ly link is this. If I put this bit.ly link into my browser like that, and instead of pushing enter, put a plus sign at the end, like that. Once you push enter now, and you've got this plus sign at the end, you can then log in and you can see how many times people have clicked, where they are in the world, what was their referring thing, did they come from Facebook or Twitter, and that is quite nice, and you can actually see what's happening. Now, obviously, if you've got Google Analytics on your website, you can obviously use this particular thing, which is a campaign URL builder, which means you can then say, my website is actually this. I'm going to grab that quickly. And what is the campaign source? Okay, so the referrer is not going to be Google or newsletter. It's going to be email signature. Okay, and the campaign medium is going to be a banner. And the campaign name could be award for this exciting thing, or latest special, or Valentine's Day, or whatever you're going to do as your campaign name, you can put a campaign name in there. So we could then say this is, let's say, Valentine's special, like that. And you can obviously put other things in, like campaign terms and campaign content. But what you'll notice at the bottom here is this is the campaign URL. So I'm going to say copy. And then if I go back to bit.ly and I put in this link and say shorten, it will obviously make me a different link. So this is that one. I can say copy, and I can put that one into my banner. And now you'll know exactly what has happened and how people have gone from your signature banner to your website. Obviously, if you're using Google Analytics. Okay, so I'm just going to close that. Now, that's a very simple little signature so far. Let's put our logo in on the side here, and let's see what else we need to add. So I'm going to grab the image logo here until we get to this part. Let it go, and it says upload the image. So picking our logo that we designed in the previous lessons, and this is what it looks like. Let's push OK. And if you look on the side here, this is what our signature will look like so far. Logo on the side, our details, and then a nice banner, which looks quite nice. Now, you might want to take your logo and link it obviously to your website. So you can either do https://www.taminggsuite.com, or you might want to use the same thing as we did before. You might want to do a campaign builder for your thing and say this is a banner again, this is the email signature, and this is just our campaign name, is just our logo. And then grab that and shorten that. The next thing we might want to do is we might want to include social media. So if you go over here to social media, there's social media strip or just a singular social media icon. Just grab the social media strip and move it to there. And it says here are all your Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, or whatever. You can either have it as horizontal or vertical. Let's just keep it as horizontal for right now. You would then obviously update these links for your specific users. You can also add another field here and say, well, I also want to include Instagram. Delete that for right now. And I'll push OK. And what you'll see is it pops in over here. So there's Facebook, LinkedIn, and that. Now I don't really want it there. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and I'm going to put it underneath there like that. Perfect, so that looks quite nice so far. Let's now do a couple other things, including add our contact details to the signature. So go back to text and fields. Right now, we originally did personal fields, and let's grab contact fields next. I want to put contact fields, I would say above the social media there. Yeah, let that go. And it says here, telephone is from work 1, mobile is from mobile 1, email, and lastly, the website. So we're going to put it as a table. You can have it as multi-line or single line again, and in single line you can have different separators, but let's keep it as a table. And you'll see this side comes up, telephone, mobile, email, and the website. And the reason why you might want to keep it as a table rather than as a multi-line is that the telephone, mobile all finish at different places and the table lines it up nicely. One of the things I spoke about originally in this lesson was how many characters you were allowed to use in G Suite. And if you use the back-end signature, where it's sort of like it isn't shown on the front end of G Suite, you're allowed to have any number of characters. If you have your signature showing up in G Suite under the editor, under the new Compose window, you can have a maximum of 10,000 characters. What you'll realize now is that, yes, there are only a couple of characters here, but every single one of these things is made up of HTML code. And with this HTML code, it becomes very, very complex very quickly, and every single one of these is going to take up a character. So you might not be able to have something this complicated on the front end of G Suite, and that is why I suggest rather using just the back end. So I'm happy with that. I think that looks perfect, and I'm going to push save. And I'm going to call this default signature. I'm going to close this. Now before we actually send this out, we need to do a couple of things. One, we need to enable it. So let's firstly enable this and say, what are we doing? Let's move your mouse over this and you'll see signature design, which goes back into the designer that we've just come out of. The second one is select senders. So let's go into that. Who do you want to have this sending with? Well, I want to have it with everyone. So I want to say everyone in my organization. And you can say OK. What you can do instead of everyone is you can say members of a specific group. So if we just do the North Pole group, we can have a banner on the bottom of that that just applies to the North Pole group. You can also do specific users or email addresses. If you just want to have Michael, then you can have that specific thing. One of the examples that I've actually done before in one of the companies is that everyone had the same email address, but the CEO didn't want to obviously have their cell phone number on the signature. Every other person in the company had their cell phone number except for the CEO. So what we did is we did two different signatures, one with the cell phone number on and one without the cell phone number on, and the one without the cell phone number we just applied to the CEO. You can also do an advanced query where you can say start with everyone and then remove people that are in South Africa, for instance. Okay? Or you can start with nobody and say only people in South Africa will get this email, this signature, or only people in the UK will get this signature. But right now we're going to say everyone in my organization and say OK. Perfect. And let's push OK again. So it's still disabled, which is fine. We've done signature design, we've done select senders. But what about recipients? So now it says here, under recipients, server side is not enabled. The recipient rules will not apply. So we can either click on enable server side here, or I'm going to go right down to the bottom to enable disable. And we have two sides. There's server side and client side. On server side, what I've explained before, is that they will not have any signature on the bottom of their emails. So I'll say, dear blah blah, here's my email, and then I can say regards, and I don't put a signature underneath it. I don't say regards Paul and my title and everything like that. I just say regards. Or if you don't even want to do that, you don't even have to. And under server side, it goes from Google to Exclaimer, stamps the signature, goes back to Google, and then from Google it goes out again. On the client side, you'll be able to see it inside here. And it says here, email signatures that are going to appear in Gmail are limited to 10,000 characters, including the HTML codes. If they're any bigger than that, it will not be applied. And that's why we normally don't set these up. So under server side, we're going to say apply the signature. There's a couple of things we can do in here, but right now I'm just going to say apply the signature and say OK. So I'm going to say select recipients. Now, you can do certain things in here. You can say only send this signature if I'm sending it to internal people. So if I'm in the HR department and I'm sending out an email to only my company, I can say, guys, remember there's volleyball tournament this Friday, or you guys need to bring lunch on Wednesday because we're not going to be providing lunch, whatever you want to do. But you can also do other things that if you are sending it to a competitor or if you're sending it to a supplier and you don't want to have a competitive supplier on the bottom of your signature, you can have a different message here. So instead of having a message with a advert at the bottom saying Exclaimer, if I was going to be sending this out, I might want to say, if I'm sending it to this company, don't put this banner on the bottom. So you can add recipients, and you can say also add the domain. If that's domain.com, then don't include this. You can do internal recipients, external recipients, or any recipients. Okay. Signature rules. This is where we had before. So we're looking under server side. Apply the signature. Only add the signature if the subject contains. So let's say you want to do a quote, and every time it goes out via your accounts department, they put the word quote. You might want to change the signature and actually have at the bottom a banner that says, if you pay this quote or if you accept this quote within February or whatever, you will get a 15% discount. But if it doesn't have that word in, quote, then don't send it out like that. Then we've got don't add the signature if the message contains, and you can say whatever you want. And you can also say anywhere in the email trail or the most recent email. And if the signature isn't added, process the next signature. Now you might not get what that's supposed to be doing, but let me show you this. If I went into the signature design for this particular email, and I looked at this banner at the bottom, and I said that this alt text was this, come and get your Exclaimer G Suite here. And I said close. I'm not going to save that. And I went back into signature rules. I'm going to say, don't add a signature if the message contains that anywhere in the email trail. So what I could do now is I could make a new signature with a different banner. And if I send out an email and it firstly gets this signature with this banner, if it goes out again and it looks at this rule and says, don't add the signature if it says this in any of your emails, then it'll add the next signature. And that's a way to sort of like have a random or a sequence of different banners for your email thread. Obviously, if you start a new email thread, it will start the sequence again, but that is a nice way of doing it. And you can have many, many of these going through that. Okay. Third to last one here, you got set date time trigger. So if you go in here and you say, let's say you've got a special happening for Valentine's Day again. Let's say we're only going to do that from the 1st of January at whatever time, and we're going to end that on the 14th of February. We can then push OK, and then that signature with that banner will only apply up until the end of January. You can then make a new signature that starts on the 15th, or 1 minute later that starts and says the next one that's coming up is something, our new example, our new thing that's going to be happening in May, and you can then run that for 3 months. Okay. Then there's rename signature. If you want to rename that, you can. And lastly, enable disable. There's copy. So let's say you've done all this work on this and you say copy to home. You now have a second one, and all you can go do is go into your signature design here and change your banner, and you'll have a brand new signature. You can also do a move. You can make a new folder here and move it into that folder based on different domains or different users. You can delete it, and if you need to, you can export it. And this is if you need to export this signature designer to be sent to Exclaimer support. So, in the next lesson, we're going to send out the email and see how this works. So now before we carry on, let's just make sure that our emails will still go out well without being classed as spam. So I'm going to go back into SiteGround here, and I'm going to go back into my advanced DNS zone editor. Going to my domain of Taming G Suite and scrolling down until I see this SPF record. And I'm going to link to this in the resources. So what we need to do is we need to include spf.exclaimer.net, and we need to put that into our DNS. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to copy this, and then under my SPF record here I'm going to push edit. So we're still going to have v equals spf1, we're still going to have include :spf Google, and then at the end, instead of having just the tilde and I'm going to paste in what I've just put in now. So we're going to have the include for Google, space, include for Exclaimer, and then I would put a space there and then push edit record. And that is what the full record should look like. Obviously, if you want to test this quickly, we can go to MX Toolbox. And we're going to do a domain lookup for Taming G Suite and change this to SPF record lookup. And what it says here is that we're going to be going through either Google or Exclaimer with a soft fail at the end. So we've got our signature design that's perfect. We've got a banner in there. We've got a link in there. It says that this is going to be sent from everyone to any recipient, and it's going to be active, and it's applied on the server side of G Suite. So let's try this now and see if this actually works. I'm just emailing myself at paul@taming.tech, and I'm going to say testing signature. This is my signature. And I'll push send. So under here, we're going to do a rules tester now. So if we go to the rules tester, we're going to say from, and that's going to be paul@tamingGsuite.com, and the recipient can be whoever. It can be paul@taming.tech. But this is really where you sort of like start figuring out if the recipients get a different one to you, but I'm just going to do a generic search right now. The subject is going to be test, because obviously you can do different things based on different subjects. And I'm going to say hello. And I'm going to say test. So it says this is what it should be when it comes through. It should say hello, our logo with a link here, our details on the side here, our banner, our social media, and then under details on here, it tells you exactly what it's doing. It says here, rules, any sender rule, is the sender within my organization, are message rules, and it goes through all of these. Depending on if you've got other things applied, like date time triggers, those will stop working or work when they need to. So that all looks good. It's not the prettiest signature. Obviously we can make it better. We can make this name bold and this a different color. But what you'll notice here is there's a couple of things missing. Telephone's missing, my mobile's missing, my email's there, and my website address is there, but my telephone and my mobile are not there. So let's just close that and close that for right now. And go back into the signature design. And what you'll see here is it says the telephone is work 1 and the mobile is mobile 1. So if I go into my admin console and go into my users, and I go into my account, and I go into user information here, you will see there's email, there's home phone number, and address here. So let's edit that, and I can put a phone number in here, and I can call that mobile, and I can put another one in, and I can call that work. And when you synchronize this again, those will then come through. And to synchronize it manually, rather than waiting for tomorrow for it to do it automatically, you go back into your Exclaimer, you close this, we're not going to save that. We push these 3 little lines in the top right corner, go to settings, and go to synchronization. It tells you when the last time it's been synchronized, and you can then say start. So this is obviously the directory synchronization, and if you have the front end synchronized, you can synchronize them automatically to your Gmail there, and you can push start. So I'm just going to push start on this one, and then depending on how fast the API is this time, it might take a couple of minutes to synchronize manually. Once you've then done it, you'll be able to see your emails. While we're waiting for that to synchronize, I sent an email to myself, and you'll see it has come through, and that is what it looks like. There's the email with the logo, there's all my details, it doesn't have my telephone and mobile because I haven't synchronized that yet, and there is everything there. So I can reply, and I say, cool. I hope that makes sense. Exclaimer is a wonderful product for Google G Suite, and we use it with a lot of our clients. It helps them with their marketing strategies, and it helps them with standardizing their email signatures for all of their staff. Check that out. Once again, if you need any help with setting it up, please pop me an email on paul@taming.tech. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching.